Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today's video we're going to be talking about alternate game modes. Now I did see this conversation right here when I was in the DEVOUR Discord. Now right here you can see that there are some players that wish there were more gameplay options because they believe the game becomes a bit too repetitive. Too much of a grind. They'd like to be able to diversify what they do in the game. But that is not what actually sparked my interest in alternate gameplay modes. I've always thought that, there could be really interesting ways to do a gameplay mode, different gameplay modes for Devour. So I decided to, dive into that a little bit. I asked around and, asked for what other kind of gameplay modes people wanted. And I got a few ideas, a few suggestions. A lot of them were kind of the same. Some of them, a good number of them wanted an asymmetrical, like 4v1 sort of thing. But the devs are insistent on wanting to keep Devour co-op only. So in that light, I'm not going to be suggesting the 4v1 Devour game mode. That's going to be a separate video all on its own. I want to be able to give you guys a better presentation of what I think could be done for a 4v1 mode. So instead, in this video, I'm going to talk about 3 or 4 different game modes that I can share with you that I have kind of cobbled together. Now, the first thing, every time when we start talking about game modes, I think a randomizer mode. You choose your difficulty setting, whether you want batteries or medkits, just like normal, and then you just hit randomizer for the game mode, and it sends you to a random map with a random demon with random minions. The most nightmarish combination of this I could think of, at least with what we have right now, would be like getting the asylum with Zara and spirits from the town. The asylum is a very large enclosed map. A good number of people, they don't play on it a lot, so people don't really know the layout for the most part. But it has like it's very tight enclosed spaces. And then you get Zara. Zara plays out the exact same way. You have to find her shrines. You're not going down to the basement. You still have to find her shrines, which would be randomly placed in different rooms throughout the asylum. You still have to find her eggs. It's the exact same way playing against Zara on the inn, only now you're doing it in the asylum. So everything's, you don't know which rooms they can kind of go into. You'll learn over time, but, and after that, you're not dealing with the wheelchair minions, you're dealing with the spirits. And in the asylum, the spirits could probably just go to town. There's so many different levels that the spirits can go up through, down through, so many different rooms they can just kind of slide right through the walls to get you. The spirits would have a field day on the map. And to make it even worse, Zara isn't someone like Molly who's just going to, path and you can kind of watch her and see where she's going. Remember, Zara, once she throws up those eggs, until you burn an egg, she disappears. You don't know where she's going to spawn. So you could be on the furthest end of the asylum and find out, you start running to try and find, a safe spot or something like that, and you run into the spot where she's spawning in. So I think a randomizer mode could be really, really fun. You could get some really interesting combinations like Sam on Farmhouse, where he can kind of slow you down in the hallways and almost always catch up to you with, say, wheelchair minions from the asylum, who will clog up those hallways in the farmhouse really, really well. Or you could get some more interesting combinations, like you could get, say, Molly on the town with spiders. Can you imagine that? Molly is so fast, and on the town she could clear distances so quickly, and spiders super low to the ground. You'd always have to be watching your step. But I think a randomizer mode could be really, really fun, and I don't think it would actually take that much of a challenge. I don't think it would be that big of a challenge for the developers to create that. So, maybe that's something they could look at in the future. We know they're not looking at new gameplay modes right now, but I don't think they've ruled out alternate gameplay modes. I know, however, that they have ruled out PvP. They don't want anything PvP related for Devour. They want it to be co-op. But the next possible thing that I can think of, alternate game mode I should think of, is more than one demon mode. So in this mode, you would choose your map like always. You would choose, batteries, medkits, etc., but you just choose, call it double demon or double down or something like that. You'd spawn in and you'd get the map's normal demon, but you'd also get a randomly chosen demon. Say, like, if you went to Farmhouse, you already have Anna, who's going to be coming in, but what you wouldn't know is who's the other demon. You could get Zara, you could get Molly, you could get Sam. Next month, if they implemented it next month, they could implement that you get Nathan, So I think keeping track of one demon makes Devour challenging for most people. The double demon mode, however, you would probably see a lot more of the higher level players or experienced players wanting that extra challenge, diving into double demon mode. You can get new achievements, new cosmetics, new stuff like that for it. But I think it would be interesting to see, people being able to go up against a literal double in challenge. I don't think it would come with that extra demon's minions. I think just the extra demon itself would be more than enough challenge. Maybe if you, decided to go nightmare mode on double demon, you would get double the minions as well. That could really, spice things up. But I think for most part, for normal and hard mode in this suggestion, you would just get 2 demons. After that, we have I came up with the idea of a marathon game mode, where instead of choosing one map, you would simply start in the farmhouse, beat Anna, and immediately be sent to the asylum. If you beat the asylum, you're immediately sent to the inn. If you beat the inn, you're immediately sent to the town. And again, next month, if you beat the town, you're immediately sent to the slaughterhouse. I can say that this would be a challenge even for high level players, because you strategize for one specific thing. You pick perks for one specific thing, for a specific map. Not all perks are good for all maps. There are a couple of them that are universally useful, but not all perks are good for all maps. Not all perks are good for all playstyles. Not all perks are good for every level of difficulty that you choose. So this would really put even high-level players to the test. And you could say, like, on normal or hard mode, if you get downed, fine, pick yourself up. But if somebody gets downed on nightmare mode, once you transition to the next map, that person doesn't get to come back. They have to wait until, like, say, if you get downed on farmhouse, you don't get to come back on the asylum, but you are brought back on the inn. So if somebody's goes down in the asylum, they don't get to go to the inn. They have to wait until their teammates beat it, and they can pop back up in the town. Something like that would make nightmare mode especially challenging, even for high level players. But I think a marathon mode would be really, really interesting to see. I can tell you this right now: high level players would take this as a challenge to see if they could beat it with no deaths. Speedrunners would try and see how fast they could get a full marathon done. This would really, really appeal to that kind of crowd. The casual players would probably take this as kind of a fun challenge to see if, like, oh man, we finally been able to beat these maps all one at a time. Let's see if we can maybe beat them, how far we can get in the marathon. So that's a cool little idea in my head as a game mode, is just string the maps together and just go. After that, the last one I'm going to suggest is play as the demons mode. So instead of being the cultist trying to, perform the rituals and get rid of the demons, you and your friends play as Azazel and the minions, with AI bot cultists running around the map looking for keys, grabbing ritual items, and destroying them. In this mode, what I would do is one player, usually the host, but you can kind of choose your role maybe, when one player would play as Azazel, the actual person being possessed on the map. So, if you're playing on the town, one person gets to choose to play as Sam, the other players get to play as minions. Now, what would happen is kind of Azazel would start out with a large pool of, we'll call it fear or demonic power or something like that, and would be able to create spawn points for minions. Like if they're ever banished, they, the player minions, they would wait 10 seconds and then choose a spawn point and pop back up right around there. You could say that they can't spawn within X amount of distance of the ritual area or something like that. You could prevent that a little bit just with a little bit of defensive coding, I suppose. But Azazel's primary thing is to set up tactics by, and I imagine the person who's playing Azazel wouldn't want to just wander around super slow like they do during the match when they're passive. So if the demon is not enraged, the person playing as Azazel would go into sort of like a first-person mode where they float around using whatever energy source the devs would give them, and drop things like spawn points, the audio jump scares, which would kind of alert people, alert the players as to where some of the cultists are, stuff like that. While the minion players, one would spawn in immediately, and then after a minute, the other two, and every minute another one would spawn in. But while they're waiting to spawn in, they can actually go around and gather like fear or something like that from the cultists, that as they're running around, the cultists would drop fear or create emotional stuff, like they get hit by one of the jump scares or something like that. The minions can go and gather it and use it to empower things like their own personal speed. They can use it for things like, I can teleport from this spawn point to this spawn point. Because the minions would start off as slow as they normally are, but as the rituals, continue to go, they get faster and faster and faster. So at the beginning of the match, the minion players are kind of more reliant on using their fear-based or energy-based powers to get around the map faster, to try and hinder the movements of the cultists. But as the map goes on, they're much faster. They can move more efficiently, so you don't have to worry too much about using your abilities. Or you could say, like, the more they gain energy and stuff like that, the faster they get. Or maybe they gain energy and over the course of the match they can unlock different powers and stuff like that. But I think a gameplay mode where you play as the demon and as the minions would be really interesting as well. Those are my ideas, simple ideas for 4 gameplay modes for Devour that the devs could maybe consider putting into the game. We know they're not considering alternate gameplay modes right now, but I don't think they've ever, even with my Q&A, I don't recall them ever flat out saying we don't want any other gameplay modes. They're just not developing them right now because they want to focus on the gameplay mode that they have right now. We do know that they're not going to be putting in PvP in Devour. They don't want that. They want to be a co-op game. And I really can't blame them for that, because co-op games, the community is actually a lot more friendly and inviting and helpful in a co-op game than in a PvP game where things go asymmetrical, because then it's a us versus them mentality, and most people play the 4 instead of the 1, and the 4 usually start to overshout the people who play the 1. But that's my idea for the alternate gameplay modes. I hope you like them. If you have any ideas, let me know in the comment. If you have any suggestions or maybe like tweaks to some of the ideas that I had, let me know down in the comments as well. Hope you all have a great day, and as always, stay positive.